Hi. Recent events have highlighted something that has been there for a long time, but it's easy to overlook, which is that there is a deep misunderstanding between the left and the right about the word rights. Or maybe not a misunderstanding, but a very deep difference in the way that word rights is perceived on the left and the right. At least my version of the left, versus the right as exemplified by the draft leaked opinion from Justice Alito overturning Roe v. Wade. Rights. On the right, rights are thought of as entitlements. On the left, at least again, my version of the left, rights are thought of as tools for enabling our personal fulfillment. Entitlement versus enablement. I avoid the word empower because I don't like the word power, but we'll step away from that. If you see rights as entitlements, that means they're property, a thing you own. One of the good things you can say about Robert Nozick, the godfather of American, quote, libertarianism, which of course is not what most people in the world mean by libertarian, the kind of right-wing libertarianism that is meant when we use that word here in the States. One of the good things about Robert Nozick is he never had any illusions. He called his theory entitlement theory, not libertarianism. Because right there, as the right, as a conservative like or reactionary like Justice Alito sees it, rights are things you own. And that has some implications. Property is widely understood as varying between persons. Different people own more stuff than other people. And if you can own more things than other people, then it is perfectly plausible to talk about being entitled to more rights than other people. So rights don't have to be equal to be rights. And in fact, I don't think someone like Justice Alito would think rights are equal. He thinks different people do have different rights. And I don't think he's ashamed of that. Another implication of thinking of rights as property is that property law is, as my professor back in law school thousands of years ago pointed out, property law is the most conservative area of law. Conservative in the sense of conserving the past, because much of what we view as what property rights we have is based on continuity of expectation, continuity of understanding. That one of the arguments for me keeping my right to own something is that I have to rely on some continuity of control. Tradition is important in property law. So you notice that people who view rights as something you own often look for their source in tradition. And that's certainly something you see in Alito's opinion. He's talking about rights traditionally recognized or rights enumerated in the text. In other words, explicit sources that give you this property. You don't just own anything. You have to have a source for ownership. So where do you get this right to own this thing? Right to right. I mean, I don't want to be circular. Where do you get this entitlement? There has to be a source for it. If it's just a thing you own, well, where do you get it from? And the answer is often tradition, or maybe enumerated in some legal document like the Constitution. That's rights as entitlement. How about rights as a tool for enabling our self-fulfillment? Owning a thing called a right is no longer fundamental. What's fundamental is our freedom and self-expression and fulfilling ourselves, being more fully and completely who we want to be and can be in fellowship with others, fully expressing and finding themselves. If it's not a thing you own, but rather a tool that helps us recognize what others, specifically government, but others as well, can do or not do to us to keep us from fulfilling ourselves. If the fundamental idea is freedom and that rights are just tools to help us express that freedom, then they're not fixed things that we own, but rather just things we recognize and develop so that we can more fully be free and fulfill ourselves. If recognizing some claim or right is helpful to expressing our freedom, then we should have it. Because we don't have to justify how we came to own this right, because it's not a thing we own. We just justify the right as a tool to help us fulfill our freedom. And my freedom and your freedom have to be equal. There's no ownership of greater freedom between us. I'm a person who should be free. You're a person who should be free. We need to be free together to express ourselves, to fulfill ourselves. So there's two different views of rights. Rights as a thing you own or as a tool to help you be more free. And if it's a tool to help you be more free, you really don't have to go digging into tradition or anyplace else to find where it comes from. It comes from being useful in helping us be more free. So, not making any observations about who's right or wrong, although clearly I'm on the left. But I just want to dig into that deep layer of what rights mean for different people. Okay? Thanks a bunch. I appreciate it. Bye bye.